Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's explainer is just, well, it's absolutely fascinating. We're going to be looking at how extreme, life-or-death operational strategies actually translate directly into everyday business success. We're literally connecting the dots between rocket science and managing a vacation rental. It's an incredible story, and it's going to completely change how you view your own daily routines, for sure.
Okay, let's just jump right in. What on earth does a 1935 bomber crash have to do with an Airbnb turnover in Kavala, Greece? I mean, it sounds like a completely bizarre connection, right? You've got early military aviation on one hand and modern vacation property management on the other. But there's this incredible hidden thread linking these two totally different worlds together, and it all boils down to how our human brains process information under pressure. Let's look at exactly how this weird connection came to be. So it all kicks off right here, in 1935. Boeing was testing out this brand new bomber, the B-17 for the U.S. Army. This thing was a marvel of engineering, truly the most advanced aircraft of its era. But during the test flight, it crashed right on takeoff. When investigators dug into what went wrong, they found something pretty shocking. It wasn't a mechanical failure. The plane was perfectly fine. The pilot, who by the way was one of the most experienced in the country, had simply forgotten to release a single control lock. There were just too many new systems, too many steps. It was, quite simply, too much information to hold in one person's head at one moment.
Now, how they responded to that crash literally changed history. They didn't go out looking for a smarter pilot. Instead, they just wrote a checklist, a short, simple list of steps to read out loud before the plane left the ground. And that one brilliant habit spread like wildfire. It moved into operating rooms for surgery, into nuclear power plants, and eventually right into NASA's mission control. Apollo astronauts used checklists for almost everything inside that capsule. When things went terribly wrong 200,000 miles from Earth, it was that simple checklist that let a small team solve life-threatening problems step by step, totally avoiding panic.
So, the crucial point here is understanding why this works. Checklists don't just magically make people smarter. It all comes down to the limits of our working memory. Basically, working memory is that limited mental space we humans have to juggle information while we're right in the middle of doing a task. By using a checklist, you're taking those routine steps out of your working memory and putting them somewhere external and completely reliable. You are literally freeing up physical space in your brain.
And here's the kicker. That mental space is incredibly fragile. It gets drained so fast by stress, time pressure, and just sheer repetition. When you rely solely on your memory to run a repeated process, you're making a massive, dangerous gamble. You're betting that a tired mind on a crazy busy day with a group chat pinging and a taxi honking outside is somehow going to remember every single detail flawlessly. And spoiler alert, it won't. Not because you're careless, it's just exactly how the human mind operates when it's under heavy cognitive load.
Which brings us sharply back down to earth, specifically to the hectic world of property management and what we can call the Airbnb turnover problem. We're taking all this high-level cognitive psychology and applying it directly to Planbnb, an Airbnb management company over in Kavala, Greece. They realized pretty quickly that their daily operations were fundamentally one big battle against the limits of working memory.
To really grasp the pressure they're under, it all comes down to one number: 2. During the crazy peak summer season, a cleaner might have less than 2 hours between one guest checking out and the next excited guest arriving. That is a frantic, incredibly high-pressure 2-hour window to completely reset a living space to absolute perfection. Talk about time pressure completely draining your working memory.
In that tiny window, just think about everything that actually has to happen. They're changing linens, checking the fridge for leftovers, testing the water pressure, refilling toiletries, checking every single light bulb, testing every remote control battery, hunting for lost items, resetting the thermostat, checking the balcony, and taking photos of the finished space. The whole shebang. I'm rattling these off fast on purpose because I want you to feel that mild sense of cognitive overload. Every single one of these steps is routine, sure, but there are just so many of them.
But here is where the system really gets tested. The danger of the fifth turnover. You see, memory doesn't usually fail on the very first cleaning of the day. When everyone is fresh, caffeinated, and ready to go. The failure happens on the fourth or fifth turnover. Remember, Planbnb manages over 50 properties across the Kavala region. Multiply all those steps by a packed summer weekend, and all those properties and routines just start to blur together into one big mess in the cleaner's mind. Expecting a human memory to survive that level of repetition unassisted is just a recipe for disaster.
So how do they actually fix it? Custom checklists for every single property. They don't ask their team to remember things, they ask their team to check things. And this is key. They don't use some generic template copied across every unit. They account for the quirky details of the exact department. The checklist will say the light switch is hidden behind the curtain, or the spare key goes in a specific kitchen drawer, or the coffee machine needs a weird reset sequence. They built their operations around the reality of how human attention actually works under pressure, rather than pretending cognitive fatigue just doesn't exist.
And it gets better because this exact same logic applies perfectly to the guests, too. Think about guest check-in. A guest showing up in an unfamiliar city, probably exhausted from a long flight, is dealing with the exact same memory load as a tired cleaner. So the management team built an in-house self-check-in system. It basically acts as a checklist for the guest. It totally removes their need to remember logistical details or figure things out on the fly, which drastically drops their cognitive load and makes arriving completely frictionless.
And this brilliantly illustrates a huge misconception we have about checklists. Relying on memory just leads to things blurring together and failing, but offloading all of that to a checklist isn't about turning people into mindless robots. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. Checklists aren't for people who can't think. They offload the memory burden so people actually have the mental space to think. Once the routine stuff is locked down on a written list, you've got real available brain power left over.
So what do they use that extra brain power for? Real, critical human judgments. Because the cleaner isn't burning mental energy wondering if they refill the shampoo, they actually notice that a guest left a damaged item. They have the clarity to realize a specific rug stain needs a deep clean rather than just a quick vacuum. Or they can spot that a smoke detector battery is dying before it becomes a 2 a.m. nightmare for the next guest. When you stop wasting energy on the 10 things that don't need a fresh decision, you can totally focus on the one thing that actually does.
Which leads us to this incredibly powerful quote from the source material that just hits the nail on the head. Reliability is about designing a system that produces the same result whether it is the first cleaning of a quiet Tuesday or the 15th of a packed August weekend. I absolutely love that. Consistent business success, whether you're launching astronauts into orbit or managing a vacation rental in Kavala, is a deliberate design choice. It is not about hiring flawless humans with perfect memories. It's about making sure your business never has to depend on anyone remembering everything in the first place. So I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on for your own life and work. Is your success designed for reliability? Are you just crossing your fingers and hoping your memory doesn't fail you today? Are you leaning on a tired mind to carry the whole load? Are you offloading those routines so you have the space to actually think? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope it sparks some curiosity about the systems you use every day. Until next time, keep learning and keep building better systems.